I'm just generating random spawns here on random leaders just to show you guys what you should be doing in each spawn. Hopefully we get some niche cases where I can show you which resources to improve and whatnot. Okay, so Catherine, the first thing I want to look at is fresh water. Okay guys, so the first thing you always want to look at when identifying your spawn location is fresh water and should you move. In this case I do have fresh water and I do have the option to move. So I would always recommend settling on fresh water, and I would only recommend moving if your spawn is really bad or if you can move and still settle turn 1. So I could potentially move here and still settle and be in fresh water, but it looks like the spawn I have here is pretty good already. So this spawn looks good, but it might be a bit tricky. We definitely want this hides tile because this hides is 3 production. And the base tile yield is 1 production, 1 culture, so that's already 4 production. When we get our animal husbandry, camps and woodcutters, there'll be 5 production because it's a camp. And then when we get our saw pit, it'll be 6 production. So this tile is going to be a 6 production tile. So right now, I also see these 2 iron, which is base 2 production. It's pretty good. And obviously the silver back here, which is good too. So these will be 3, and silver will be 3 later as well when we get masonry and stuff. Since this tile is so good, I'm going to go woodcutter start here. Because that will give us the most production in the early game, and then we can transition to mines later on. Now if I'd have spawned over here, for example, I would go mines, because you can have a clay pit and you can have these 3 mines and this sheep. But since we're here, I'm going to take the farm first for the extra growth, and then later I will crush the farm. So now I've got my hides tile. I've got my scout coming in next turn.
The cage.
And now I already have a great setup for myself. I already have 10 production in Athene. This hide is giving me 2 production on the base yield, and the resource is giving me 3 production. So this is already a 5 production tile. So this is already better than working towards these irons, if you can understand that. So now I crush my saw pit, and now I want to work towards getting these irons online when I get masonry. So I will go towards, I'll go pottery and then masonry, and then we can start working the irons after we have achieved those. So let's take culture. I always recommend going tool making, because this is just really, really strong. Unless you have amazing production start, this is really, really helpful for you. And I'll just go. So right now, our brickyard's coming in next turn. 2 turns until a growth. So now we have a choice whether we want to get a scout. We already have 15 production, so we can 1-turn scouts. Or we could shift enter production once. I think in a normal game, getting a scout would be more valuable. So now we have 4 population. We could get 1 more scout, which would be good. Or we could get a brickyard. Or we could wait here. So you see how now we have 1 turn before our settler comes out. So what we can do now is if we shift enter production, so that's again when you hold down shift and then press enter, it will end your turn and I won't have selected anything to build. So that means this production will go into overflow and I'll have that available to build something next turn with a 15 production head start. So I don't want to build anything that I have available right now, but next turn I'll be 5 population and then I'll be able to build a settler. So if I do shift enter now, this 15 production I'll be able to put towards that settler and I have a quicker settler next turn. So let's do that. So now we have our growth with 5 pop. Now comes the choice of whether you want to go towards mines for extra production or you want to take the extra culture. At this moment, I would recommend the extra culture because the culture is going to be more valuable since we already have a very good production start, but we can expand towards the mines so we can get those next. So now just do this. I always like taking food for growth. And now, remember how I said about the shift entering production? You can only do that once. Like if I do it again, it's not going to keep stacking up. But now I can build my settler and it's 1 turn, even though the cost is 25 and we only have 17 production, right? Because our previous turn we shift entered production, that 15 now adds up with our 17 and we can do this settler in 1 turn. So we'll have our settler out on turn 10. And now just send him over to settle somewhere. And our next settler, 3 turns.
The river there.
And then normally take gold in these huts. But in that case, it's very valid to take production because our settler would have popped next turn. And now we get another settler. Normally early I like to buy slingers because then I can follow my commander with slingers. Let's just show you this as an example. We could 1 turn a brickyard here, and I would recommend doing that. Actually, we'll take the 2 turn settler instead. Now we have extra resource. So now next turn, since our settler's almost done, the overflow production should mean this brickyard is 1 turn. And we'll take the 30% towards buildings. I always recommend taking this one early as your first celebration, because that is when you're going to be building buildings. And there we go. So now we've got 4 settles. We've got 1 settle on the map, and we've got 2 settlers out. And we've got a brickyard in 1 turn. And we've got a great start. So our next production pops, we can go on the irons, because the brickyard will buff those. And we can even start crushing. So now a trick you can do to get more production, you can use your wonder, grab the mine, use your wonder again, grab the new mine, and now we have a great production start already. Okay, that was an example of woodcutter start, but we did get very lucky with a hide. Probably the best resource to have next to your capital. So let's try another start.
Stands between the worlds. As you bring the power of the land, you turn forests to shrines, waterfalls to music, and the mountains themselves to allies.
Okay, again, we want to first be looking at, can we move, and if so, where should we move? So let's look at the fresh water. Some interesting things about our spawn is we could move down here, but it's risky because we don't know what's over here. And we could move here, still get this horse in our capital, but then you kind of still want to be in range of a navigable river, so let's look. We could move here, and then we have these plains hides. Plains woodcutters, rather. Plains woodcutters are great because they're going to be 3 production. So let's see. If we stay in place, we could work this, and then these woodcutters. If we move anywhere, we would be moving here, and then we could work this and get these woodcutters. But let's just stay in place, and let's get a scout. So what are we working with? Right. So now we can see our spawn a little bit better. And we're definitely going to be wanting to go woodcutters here because we have 0 mines, obviously. So it's a animal husbandry opening. And let's get a second scout. Now, we could work a woodcutter straight away here for 1 extra science. But if we work towards these plains woodcutters are going to be the main source of our production at the start. So we need to work towards those. And again, we can do it by taking a farm and then crushing this later with our warehouse building.
I protect.
Culture early, so we get our government straight away. Because that, if you imagine that culture, it's giving us 22 culture, but it's also giving us 1 production, 1 science this turn, so that's good. And now we have our woodcutter. Again now, since we know we want to be building a saw pit next turn, we have a choice here to build another scout for 2 turns, or to shift enter production for a saw pit. What I like doing, the way I normally play is I will not go a 3rd scout early on, and instead I will shift enter production and get my warehouse building up. So now my saw pit is 2 turns. I can take the saw pit and I can get another production here. It might be tempting to take this wine, but this wine is not going to give us anything until later. So this wine will give us 1 production and 4 happiness. The most key factor right now is production. We need production first, and then we can worry about the resources later. So here, again, I'm not going towards incense, because 10% science of 1 is 0.1 science. And it's a 1 production tile that we can't make any more production. So that would be a very bad start for us to do. So now let's keep going. Our brickyard's coming in next turn. Food. And now again we're in the situation where we could build something, or we could roll over our production into a settler next turn. So let's do that. And now we're at turn 8. Turn 9, our settler is out once again. Now we get the pick. Now we obviously want a woodcutter. So we could take a woodcutter here for gold, but science is a more valuable stat right now. So let's take science. And this is generally how most of my openings go. So now again, we've got 15 production in our capital. Take food. And we're working towards our second settler already. So a pretty good start here. Nothing special. No resources. No resources worked. We can work towards the horse later, but right now these tiles are just better than the horse. 3 production, 3 production, 2 production and a science. That's just better than a horse right now. We will be able to get silver later as well, but since this is a mine tile and we have all woodcutter focused tiles, we don't want to get that yet. So we're just settling in a random spot. Again, silk, not worth improving at this point. It's 1 culture, 2 food on the actual tile, and 10% culture. So if I slot that in my capital, 10% of 0 is 0. So completely worthless. So our next settler is out. Now we can consider going for another settler. Or we can just go whatever we want, really. But we're going to have our settlements out pretty early. And we'll have a pretty good game. Food, always good. Now we get an extra population. Extra population is more production. We've got a choice. Do we want to take the wine? We're 2 turns away from celebration. We could take the wine for 5 culture, but right now that production is really what we need at this early stage. Working wine in towns is very good when you're about to celebrate, but we don't want to be working in our cap this early. So now we have 17 production in my capital. If I can 1 turn a brickyard, I will. And I'll make it on the same tile as my other warehouse building. So I get my bonuses. Going for masonry 2 is pretty nice because that will give us more production as well. So masonry 2 is giving us +1 production on production buildings. Once we have our brickyard, that will be our second production building. So that's going to be 2 production straight away. And now we want to take production towards buildings because we might build something. Doesn't matter what I'm taking here. Monument, get that towards the river so we can put a harbour in the river and we can get more production. Just taking random stuff here, but now we've got a good game. We're set up. We've got our 4 settlers out. We've got our 2 settlers out. We've got our 3rd settler on the way. We've got pretty good vision. We've got a lot of gold we can buy stuff with. We're just going to have a good game here. So let's try another start.
Napoleon Bonaparte, your name is synonymous with ambition and audacity.
Not taking any mementos in these games. Normally I would take Groma, and then you can even get your settlers out quicker because you have extra production towards settlers from the expansionist point. But this game I'm not. Okay, so here looks like a bit of a tricky start. We have some woodcutters around. We have clay pits. So we've got a clay pit here and a clay pit here. That's nice. And we've got a clay pit here. And we've got a clay pit here. So we've got a lot of clay pits. And first off, can we move? Should we move? We can move. And I think we should move. Why do I think we should move? So this start, woodcutters look okay. We could get a group of woodcutters here with elephant. But we've got cotton up here, but it's a bit too far away. Taking 2 farms for 1 cotton is not worth it. And we got clay pits. So we got mines, essentially. And we got a clay pit here and a clay pit here. So my thinking now is how can I make sure that I'm working as many mines or clay pits as possible and no farms. So if I stay in place, I can work this one and then I could crush my way towards this one, but then I'd have to work a farm to get this clay. So that's not ideal. I could work this and then this and get this clay pit, but that again is going to leave me a square away from, it's going to mean I have to work a farm to get another one. So I'm thinking, can I move now? I can move because clay pits are giving fresh water. So this clay is giving fresh water to this tile. So if I move here, I'm going to be adjacent to this one, so I can work this straight away. Now, I can also work this one next and go towards this clay here, and then work this, and then I'll work this, and then I'll work towards one of these two clays. So that seems like my plan here, because then I'll get 2 clay resources, and I've uncovered a load of mines here in the back, and I've also uncovered a cowlin. So how do I want to do this? Let's scout. And we're definitely going to be going clay pits. Clay pits are better than mines early on, because as soon as I get pottery, +1 production on clay pits kicks in, and I don't have to have finished my brickyard yet. So that's perfect. And I'll be able to scout. Right, so now I need to decide here. This tile is better, +1 production on warehouse buildings, but I need to be very careful on how I'm playing this here. So yes, I want to take this, but I can also save this for later after I've put down my brickyard. So first things first, I want to work towards this clay pit. So I'll take this farm, and we see we've uncovered a mine at the back here, which is perfect. This mine is base 1 production, and because these two are going to be a bit tricky to get across to, these clay pits at the start. So we maybe after this clay pit we can grab this mine here later. Always take food early because food is good. So now we've got our second growth. So now since our pottery's finished, we get +1 production on clay pits. Now this clay pit is giving us 2 production. So perfect, we'll take that. And now we'll take our brickyard, pop it on here, and we'll take our other clay pit with 2 production. Now, it was important to do it this way round instead of taking this first, because if you'd imagine we taken this first, we'd be working that, and then we'd have to take this farm, and when we crush the farm with the brickyard, we wouldn't be able to take this clay pit behind it. So it was very important to take this farm first, then this clay pit, because it means we've unlocked this tile back here, and then we can crush our farm and take the other clay pit. So now we're already set up with a good start, already 9 production. Once our brickyard kicks in, we're going to get buffed by both clay resources, so that's going to be very nice, and these clay pits are also going to be buffed. So now I want to go animal husbandry, because I anticipate I'm going to have to work a woodcutter next. I could work this mine back here, or I could work this woodcutter towards the cowlin. We'll decide on that in a few minutes. So again, tool making, excellent. Right, important choice here. Since we got this next turn, our growth next turn, that's fine. Let's just take the... but since we might be working mines, so we're probably going to take this mine at some point and the cowlin. That means we're going to be wanting to go towards masonry as quickly as possible, because masonry gives us a passive buff, 1 production on mines and quarries. So in this case, since we'll be working mines and quarries, I'd recommend first taking science and going towards masonry. So any huts we can take. We don't need culture yet. We haven't even seen a city state or anything like that. So first, since we're working mines and we got masonry, we want to be taking science from huts. And now let's go towards masonry. So in 5 turns, our mines will be good. Right, so now we're turn 5. We can 2-turn a settler on turn 5 already. Now comes a choice on what to take again. What we could take is this mine. We could take this woodcutter. Let's see. What would be best here? So in this case, since we have such a great production start, we're at turn 7 already 15 production. I think we can afford to take something that's not as good, and we can build a saw pit before we build a settler, because this saw pit is giving us 3 production, which will be great. So now if we take the saw pit, and we want to build our saw pit towards more mines and more clay pits and more production resources. So personally, the easy solution, just take the mine here. In 4 turns, that's going to be 3 production. That's going to be nice. And then just build a settler and be happy along your day. But the greedy version is take a woodcutter and build a saw pit towards clay pits. And now turn 8, we have 20 production in our capital and we're 1 turning settler. Turn 9, we're out on the map already. So a very nice start here. Just a great start here. And then next we can improve the Cowlin. And by the time we improve the Cowlin, masonry will be done. So let's just keep rolling through a little bit. Got a settler out. Let's go for another settler. 2 turns on the next one. Perfect. So now masonry's kicked in. So our Cowlin is now 3-2 tile plus the 2 extra food. So that's a 5-2, 1 happiness tile. Do not take silk because this is just a bait. It's just giving you 2 food and 1 culture. This is giving you 5 food, 2 production, 1 happiness. Excellent tile. Get our settlers out. Have a little run around. Again, we could go for masonry 2 here, but since we have 2 clay, we already have a lot of production, so we don't really need it. We can go for something else. Production and gold, always good. Here we don't need food anymore, we're grown enough.
There is
Now we can take whatever. Again, buildings. Buildings is great. So here we are on turn 14. We've got 3 settlers out. We've got 2 buildings. We could get a granary. Now we probably want to just finish our granary because we've got 2 clay. Why not? 1 turn a granary and then 1 turn a monument after that. It says 2 turns on this monument, but since we have so much production and since we have the 30% towards buildings, I would posit that this is quite likely going to be 1 turn. Since we get that extra, since we get the production overflow from anything that like overflows the granary. So not quite, still 2, but it's going to be very close. There we are. Settle. Settle. Still grow. So now, still we don't want to take these resources because 10% of 5 is 0.5. So that's very low. Now, you could take, there's a couple of choices you could take here. You could take this one, which is giving you 2 food, 2 prod, pretty good, 1 happiness. You could take the raw production, which is always good, and mines are good if you're going to take like a military city-state and get hill forts, for example. So if you're anticipating that you're going to get hill forts, it might be good to start always getting mines from this point on. But even this tile here is good. 2 production, since we already have a lot of production, 2 production, the actual 1 culture is pretty nice. So now there we go, turn 17, we can 2-turn a settler still, and we've got all our settles down, we've got another settler on the map, and in 2 turns we have our next settler as well. So another great start. Most of the time you can have a decent start. Oh, this is Maurya. Right, Maurya, my recommendation for Maurya. It's going to be the same as other civs, but this start, Maurya is just a bad civ, so this start, we've got 2 mines here, and a farm, no good. We've got a plains cotton, that's good. That's going to be 2 food, 2 production from the cotton resource, and 1 production, 1 gold, 1 happiness, so that's great. We want to work towards that straight away. We got our plains woodcutter here, perfect, woodcutter start. And we got more woodcutters around here and woodcutters here, so this is a very clear woodcutter start. Now we'll do our same trick of making sure our initial start tile is a farm. Going animal husbandry because we're going woodcutters. Take this farm towards the cotton. Again, I'm going to go with my shift enter. Make sure to take the cotton before you crush the tile. Now we can crush the tile and get the plains woodcutter. Food early is very nice. Go for sailing here because we might want to settle over this way. Food, excellent. Great start already. Woodcutter with food is good. We're going to get another woodcutter with food over here. So there we go, turn 6, we're already 5 population. Ready to build our settler. Tool making as always. And we're on Maurya, we're even 2-turning the settler. Maurya notorious for being terrible and having extra settler production. Or settlers costing extra. So now we got our settler, send him over this way. 3 turns on the next one, that's pretty good for Maurya. Now, we still got woodcutters to work, so we're all good. Don't need to transition to mines just yet. Notice how I'm not working incense. I'm not working wine. These resources right now in my capital are going to slow me down too much. They're not going to give enough benefit to be worth working. 10% science. 10% science of 1 right now is 0.1, guys. Even if I get this tile to make it 2 science, it's going to be 0.2 science. That is pitiful. Take the gold. Take another. So right now we could take this woodcutter. Is there any reason to take these woodcutters for over it? I mean, we could work towards this, but I'll take this woodcutter here. 18.7 production. Somehow. I guess that's Ashoka buff. So we got a decent production. We're able to 1-turn slingers. We're 3-turn our settler again. Maurya has more extensive settlers, so that's just the way it goes with this civ. Could go towards the camel, but I mean, what's the point? We don't have resources. This tile has a science. That looks good to me. Now, instead of a one-turn settler, let's take a brickyard. I like when you can one-turn a brickyard like this. It's nice, because now we can pivot towards taking mines and stuff like that too. Once we get masonry, these mines will be 3 production.
Close to the...
And since we want to pivot towards mines, let's go for science so we get masonry. Four-turn settler. Maurya things. There we go.
He was the...
Production towards buildings. Can we one-turn a building? Not right now. After our settler is done, we'll probably be able to start towards this. Masonry 2, because we've got 2 extras. We've got a brickyard and a soil pit, so that's going to give us 2 production, which is nice. So we've got our next settler, and we're going to get our monument, and we're going to just be able to start taking whatever tile we want. At this point, you can take. We're 2 turns left in the celebration, so maybe wine. This is going to give us 10 culture, but then it won't be very useful until our next celebration. We could take a mine, or we could take a mine. You take whatever you want at this point. You got a strong enough base, but I'd still recommend just taking production tiles. So we could take this one for 1 extra happiness, or I could take this one to expand our borders, so we don't accidentally take it from with this city. Science, there's masonry 2. So now we have 25 production in our capital. We've got buildings going. We're chilling. Turn 17, we've got our settlers out, our next settler out. We can one-turn buildings, we can get a guy next turn. So again, a pretty good start. It's quite unlikely that you're going to have a terrible, terrible start. As you've seen, I've done about 4 starts now, where every time I'm able to have similar results. Sometimes it's going to be slower than others, but that is what it is. Okay, let's try one last time.
Augustus Caesar claims his right.
I've showcased a few different starts, saw pit starts and mining start. Let's see what we get this time. Again, I'm just doing it with no mementos, nothing, so I'm not giving any extra tempo. Right, here. Looks like we have an interesting start. Pretty bad start, if I would say. Fresh water. I could risk it and go down here. But this is a great tile. This is an example of a pretty bad start. In general, I would say we have to move. I don't want to move away from this, but in a real game, I would probably move down here. So let's just play it like a real game. I mean, this is a great tile. I don't want to move away from this, but I want to settle on fresh. And also, I want my capital to have the best chance possible to be able to put a harbour and a fishing quay. So, I can see this is the coast. So, in a game, I would move here to here. And I'd probably move even one more here. So, there's the coast. We got a really crappy spawn. But let's see what we can do. So, this is going to have to be... I mean, this is a terrible spawn. So let's see what we can do. We're going to have to get this clay pit. And that is a mine somehow. Whoops. That was a mistake. So now let's get this clay pit. Take the production. Because we need all the production we can get. Next turn we got our pottery, so let's shift enter. And let's crush this for now. And let's get our clay. We need the production. We need all the production that we can get with a bad start like this. And we need to go straight towards masonry because we need to buff our future mines here, these grassland mines. It's a shame we moved away from iron, but what can you do? Moving towards the coast is always a great idea. Well, it's a better idea than not being on coast. Like if I was here, 1, 2, 3, I wouldn't have been able to reach the coast. So now next turn we're gonna get our we're gonna be able to produce settler. So now comes the decision whether I want to shift enter production. And I think I do. Actually, no. Since we have such a low production start, I want to ensure we get as much production as possible, even if it means delaying our settler a little bit. Since we have a clay, I'm going to build a saw pit. And I'm going to build it here instead of on my brickyard, because then I can unlock a harbour as soon as possible and get the harbour for production as well, which will be buffed by my clay. So let's take the huts. Food hut, always good. Now, 2 production here, that's what we need. And once this saw pit is done, we'll go towards settlers. So there we go. We're still going to have our settler out on turn 10, except this time we're going to have two buildings, which is nice. And we'll have masonry in 2 turns. So, although it's a pretty terrible start, we're still going to be just fine. I'm curious as to what other people would have done with this start, if they would have stayed in place and maybe gone towards the sheep. That would have been decent, but I feel like in overall terms, it's better to have your capital connected with the sea. So it's a worthwhile trade-off to make, in my opinion. Again, now we could 3-turn a settler. Not great, but it is what it is. There's our masonry, so our settler went down to 2 turns because our tile here with the mine got buffed. And now we could go masonry 2 for the extra production on buildings, or we could go sailing. I like sailing here because then we'll be able to build a harbour for extra production, and we'll be able to, you know, in the game we'll be able to move across these rivers and stuff. Oh, that's an unfortunate storm. Take something random. And let's get... So let's... Our harbour's going to be produced next turn. So in this case, we've got 2 settlers out already. We do want to get a 3rd as soon as possible. In this game, Gugnir would be in our way, so we'd have to kill it. So building 1 slinger here would be good. because then next turn we'll be able to go towards a settler again. Now next time we know if sailing is going to come in, and that means we're going to be able to build a harbour. Somehow that is a tropical tile in the middle of tundra. That is crazy. I don't know what the devs did to the game, but how that is a tropical tile, I'll never know. But we'll take it. So next turn, sailing's going to come in, and the harbour is going to be nice 2 production building because we've got our clay, and then it'll be 3 production when we get masonry 2. So what I would do here, instead of building another settler straight away because it's 3 turns for our settler, I would shift enter production. So now we can 1 turn our harbour here, and the overflow production will help us build our next settler quicker. So now I would go for masonry 2 because we've got so many production buildings. And now, there we go. Get these settles down. And there we go, 2 turn settler now. It went from 3 to 2 turns because we're Augustus, and Augustus gets extra production from number of towns. So we just got 4 extra production from towns, so that bumped all our efforts, bumped our settler down to 2 turns, saving us some headache. Alright, there we go. Couple more turns. And there we go. Now we've got our celebration. Let's take production towards buildings. And now let's get our buildings up. I like building the buildings adjacent to the capital, so you get this, especially warehouse buildings. I would probably actually, right now we can put the monument here. We want to keep this tile because our capital is already low production, right? So although technically the best adjacency for our monument would be here, we would crush this tile in the process, so we'd lose 1 culture. So already you can imagine this losing 1 culture, so it'll be 3 culture. So then it becomes, I mean, we might as well build it somewhere else. And then furthermore, we'd crush one of our only clay pits. Like the rest, if you see our capital, we have silk, it's giving us no production. We have farm here, no production. More silk, no production. Rice, although it's a good resource, it's not good in the capital because it doesn't give us any production. So crushing this with a building would be a mistake because we're destroying one of our good production tiles with a building. That would also take away culture from the actual tile itself, so not worth it. Now we get some resources going, and we've got a decent cap. 28 prod, 4 of that is coming from Augustus, so decent prod, turn 18. Even though this spawn looked pretty dire, we still managed to make it work somehow. So pretty much always you can make something work. I've just seen too many people work silk or work mangoes or farms or stuff in their capital and then have not enough production to 1-turn units or 2-turn like settlers or buildings and stuff like that, and it really slows down your game. So you want to make sure you're focusing on getting as much production as you can in your capital as soon as you can. So that'll be it for now. If you have any questions, just message me on Discord or something, and I'll get back to you. Thank you.